All right, welcome to our professional development coffee chat. I'm really excited to be back with you all again another week. So, today we are talking about why sending your teaching staff to another workshop is not going to get them to buy into whatever your goal is, whether it's to improve classroom management, to help them rearrange their classrooms, to just get them excited about coming to work, right? Training alone is not the answer. Welcome, everybody. My name is Flora Gomez. I am a professional development strategist for early childhood educators with Teach for Teachers, Inc., and I help programs build competent and confident teaching teams by overcoming challenges in staff development and also improving leadership practices. So, today I'm going to jump right in because I've been noticing as I've been doing professional development training workshops, I always like to ask either the person scheduling the workshop or the participant why. Like, why did you choose this topic? Why did you show up today? What made you decide to initiate this training? And a lot of times from teachers, I hear because my director made me come, or my principal made me come, or something to that effect. Is never, let me be clear. Let me come back. I won't say never because that's an extreme, but a lot of times it's not because this is something that they want to do. It's the part of a requirement that they're trying to fulfill for work. So the other side is when I talk to leaders, there's always a new curriculum or a new initiative or a grant that we're going for. So a part of that sometimes is required training, and that's totally okay. I believe that if you're going to implement something new, you absolutely have to train your staff, but that can't be the beginning of the process to getting them to buy in to what it is that you're initiating. Okay. So today I want to share with you 3 reasons that just signing your staff up for workshops and sending them to a training is not going to get them excited. It's not going to get them to buy in. And it definitely won't keep them invested in what it is that you're trying to accomplish. So I brought some notes today because I wanted to make sure that I stuck to my topic and that I didn't miss any points. All right. So the first thing I want us to think about is whether or not the training or the workshop that you're sending your team to is even relevant to them. So I do a lot of training, and sometimes the teachers could care less, right? So a couple of weeks ago, I was doing a training focusing on the physical environment. And sometimes in my workshops, I'll have a combination of people. So there may be teachers and assistants, or program directors, principals, instructional coaches. And this time, the conversation happened to be between me and a coach. So the coach was very um, she emphasized, right, the teachers needing to rearrange their room to eliminate that open runway that we all try to avoid, right, to keep the children from just running and zipping straight through the classroom. That was important. And of course, we know that best practice says we should try to keep those runways, limited so that children aren't going straight through doing a 40-yard dash. But the teacher wasn't she wasn't feeling it. So the coach was like, you know what? I think this is a great training. I'm going to sign her up for this training and tell her she needs to come. And then she was also saying how in the next professional development activity she was going to plan, she was going to present more research, right? She's looking for more research and more reasons to help this teacher understand why she should rearrange her furniture to prevent running. And I asked, well, what does the teacher want? What does the teacher need? Or what have they said when you have this conversation? And she said the teacher told her that the room is arranged that way because she can see in all of the areas around the classroom. So if we dig a little bit deeper, for one, you're sending her to a training that solves a problem that the teacher doesn't have, because the teacher was okay with the running in the middle of the classroom. She was totally fine with that as long as she could see everyone from where she was positioned. So we were solving the wrong problem, which meant the reason you want the teacher to attend this training is not important to them. So we got to always think about what's in it for me. That teacher's primary concern was being able to actively supervise her students. So that's where we need to start with providing support. Okay. So if you're solving a problem that doesn't exist, then this isn't important to me, right? So you got to figure out what's in it for them. What does the teacher need? And what do their students need? And even if a lot of times those things are similar, you got to make a connection to them, right? Always think about what's in it for me. Why do I want to spend my time investing in this type of training or workshop? So the second reason that teachers don't really buy in to your goal after going to a workshop is because there's a big gap between what they learn and find out in this training and what's actually going to happen when they get back to school. So, and this is just in my experience, right? When I have teachers come to training, a lot of times they disconnect, they check out before we get started because, for one, they've had enough experience where they feel they know enough about the topic, right? I already know this. Sometimes I can get them to commit to being open to learn something new or to even try something new. But the reality is, when they get back into their classrooms at school, the way they have to implement it may not always be in alignment. So there's oftentimes this gap between what happens in the workshop and what they're going to implement. And of course, we use all of the strategies, right? But when we're doing role plays or scenarios, or we're analyzing vignettes and we're asking them to respond to hypothetical scenarios, it's only going to take us so far. I remember a couple of years ago, I took a conceal and carry class, right? So that I could be a licensed carrier for a firearm. And I learned so much. But one of the things that stood out to me is that the trainer made it very clear she was not about to spend a lot of time going through scenarios with us. What she wanted to do was to give us the knowledge and the skills we needed to make decisions for ourselves. She said, if you're in a sticky situation and you have to decide whether or not you're going to use a firearm or how you're going to use it, I need you to be able to think in the moment, assess the current situation, make a decision, and follow through, right? She said, but if I give you all of these scenarios, it doesn't matter how many situations we look at, how many videos we look at to assess things. When you're in a situation, it's probably not going to be that. So instead of having you practice what may be a false reality, I want you to be able to think and make decisions for yourself in the moment. And I said, that's it. That's the same thing I want for teachers. So instead of going through all of these hypotheticals, yes, we need examples, but when it's time to show up in the real world, what we practice in training is probably not going to be the situation you're dealt with. And most of the times it's not. So in addition to a workshop, you need to be able to have some type of support waiting for the teacher so that they can implement when they get back to the classroom, and so that they can apply those strategies in real time, in real life, get some feedback, and go back and refine it. Even still, when I'm coaching in the classroom with teachers, there are some things I want to see them change, right? So if I'm observing, let's say, large group time, and I'm giving them feedback on their circle time with preschoolers, and I say, I want you to do these three things, and the next time I come, I'm going to observe you. Guess what? Those conditions are going to be different. It might be different children who are at school today that weren't there during the last observation. The circumstances could just all around be different. However, they still need to apply those strategies. So what we want to do is create spaces where teachers have what they need to think and apply those strategies on their own in real time. But it's a two-part process, right? They get the knowledge from the workshop, but when it comes to implementation, they need hands-on support doing it that way as well. And in my trainings, I'm very transparent. I'm going to give you this advice based on the scenario you just gave me right now, but I'm fully aware that when you encounter it again or when you experience it again, there's going to be different variables that come into play. So I need you to figure out how to make the best decision for where you are right now. All right. And then my third reason why the workshop doesn't work and you can't get your teachers to buy in is because they already know that once I leave this training, I'll get my certificate and it's over and done with, right? There is no structured plan for follow through or follow up already ready. So one of the things I stopped doing is sending my teachers to workshops and just taking a certificate. We have to have some type of implementation, right? I want to discuss what parts are going to be applicable because sometimes everything that's taught in a training doesn't apply to your program, and that's okay as well. Everything won't always resonate unless you're having a training that's custom created for you. Then that's a different goal. But they have to know that there's going to be some follow through. Okay. If nobody ever asks them how the training went, if nobody ever comes to observe to make sure they're implementing those strategies, then it's a waste of time, right? That's just like when I tell my children to go and clean their rooms. When they know I'm going to come back and observe behind them to make sure that all of the toys are off the floor and the laundry has been put in a basket and that the beds have been made, then they are more likely to go ahead and fully engage in that process. But if they know, you know what, mom is sitting on the couch, she's watching her shows, she's scrolling on her phone, she's not going to care whether or not the room is really clean, then they don't invest as much energy into it. And it's the same way with our teachers and workshops. So we want to make sure that there's a plan and that they know what the plan is ahead of time. Even if it's, you know what, you're going to a training on Tuesday, when we come back during our Friday staff meeting, we're going to discuss what you learned and talk about what the next steps are. You have to let them know that it's not just about providing the training for the sake of saying that you offer the training. I know a lot of times we want to be able to show and document that we train teachers. However, it's a little bit more to it than that. So let me leave you with some strategies and some ways that we can kind of overcome these challenges so that, one, my goal is not to get you to stop sending teachers to workshops, right? Like, transparency moment. I'm a professional development provider. You all would put me out of business if I told you to stop doing workshops. I just want you to take it a step further and make sure it's a meaningful experience for your teachers and that they're really getting the most out of it, right? Of course, I'm going to always show up and give them what it is they express to me that they need, and then also what you express that you need from them as well. One of the things I noticed is that all trainers are not created equal. Okay. So even when I'll talk to a leader and they tell me what it is they want from this training for their staff, I'm always trying to find some connection with the teachers. If not, I find myself, on Zoom, everybody's cameras off, or if they're forced to keep their cameras on, you could just really tell they don't want to be here. So I have to figure out what's going to make them tick. All right. What's in it for them? So here are your 3 strategies. The first thing I want you to do is figure out what the teachers need. Okay, let's go back to that. What's in it for me, and how can we tailor this so that they can feel like they're getting something out of it, even if it's a connection to their students, right? If the overall goal of the program is to increase our literacy instruction, or I'm sorry, improve our literacy instruction in the preschool classroom, for example, teachers might have different challenges and struggles. So figure out what it is that they need and what they would desire in order to be successful. The second thing is, yes, continue to do the role plays, the scenarios, and have the conversations and discuss the hypotheticals, right? This is what gets our ball rolling. This is what gets us thinking about different circumstances that we've either been in or that we may encounter again. But I want you to focus more on the application. Okay. So when we have something that comes up in the classroom, just like with children, how we want to connect and build on their prior knowledge, when things happen in the classroom, we can use that scenario we practice as a referral basis, right? We can go back. Remember when we discussed this? Well, this is pretty similar to what happened in the training. So let's try that strategy we said we would use, okay? But you got to make a connection between what they learn and what they actually apply, because oftentimes the conditions are not the same. And then my third strategy is for us to develop a plan for working after the workshop. This requires a lot of intentionality. I was talking to a director it's been about a week now, and she was talking about some quality improvement efforts she's making. And a part of that process included buying new materials. She noticed that there just weren't enough materials in the classroom to keep the children engaged. So I asked, so once you buy these materials and put them in the classroom, then what? Oh, we're going to have a meeting with the teachers and tell them, that we have the materials and go over expectations. Well, we don't even know if the teachers care about that, right? For one, we haven't figured out what their need or challenge is around materials, and then you're just telling them what to do. You got to have a better implementation plan, get them to understand the why. get them to understand how they're going to start utilizing those additional materials in order to support their instruction and making those connections for them. So you want to create trust with your staff by letting them know that there's going to be support for them on the back end. So you put all of these materials in my classroom, and now my students are overwhelmed because they're not used to having so much. And I have to figure out how to get the behavior management and the classroom management back in control, right? So sometimes we can create new challenges by solving one challenge, and we have to be prepared to support teachers through it. So in summary, buy-in is going to come from knowing what's in it for your team, having authentic support with application, right? It's not just the knowledge, it's also how are we going to implement this to make it practical, to make it stick, to make it meaningful. And then they need to be able to trust that you won't leave them and just say, well, I provided you the training, right? Because we think that that's a part of our role, which it is. But I trained you, but you can't train them and leave them. That's just like when teaching my daughter how to ride a bike. We take the training wheels off, and I'm going through the process with her. But even after she gets in, she gets into that groove, I'm still close by until she really has that rhythm of riding a bike without training wheels. So you cannot leave them too soon. They need to know that they'll be able to theoretically, right? Or I don't know, maybe theoretically isn't the right word, but they need to know that if they turn around and look and they're still pedaling and going, that you're right there to support them just in case they stumble or fall. All right. Thanks so much. If you want to learn how to avoid some of the common professional development mistakes that I often see, make sure you check out the link in the comments, because I'm going to share with you a free training, the top 10 professional developments made in early childhood education. And of course, I'm going to give you some strategies that you can use to either avoid those mistakes or correct the ones you've already made. Until next time, I'll see you on our next professional development coffee chat. Take care.